Hello everyone. Here we will see The Notes of London, written by William Blake. William Blake's songs. William Blake's Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience are the collection of poems that utilize imagery and instruction and were concerned with the broad range of social, political, and religious problems of the unstable times. That he lived in Songs of Innocence was a poetry collection written from the child's point of view. Innocent wonderment and spontaneity in natural things. Songs of Innocence portray the ideology of hope and fear that are imposed onto native children that transpires in them they grow to adulthood. Many of poems draw attention of the positive aspect of natural human understanding prior to the corruption. London. London is a poem by William Blake published in Songs of Experience in 1794. It is one of the few poems in Songs of Experience that does not have a corresponding poem in Songs of Innocence. Blake lived in London, so writes of it as a resident rather than a visitor. The poems reference the 2nd-century status of human soul. The Songs of Innocence section contains poems which reference love, childhood, and nature. Critics have suggested that the poems illustrate the effects of modernity on people and nature, though the discussion of dangerous industrial conditions, child labor, prostitution, and poverty. This poem, taken from Songs of Experience, it reveals the poet's feelings towards society. Blake suggests that the experience of living there could encourage a revolution on the streets of capital. This could have been influenced by the recent French Revolution. The use of the word chartered is ambiguous and goes against control and ownership. It may express the political and economic control that Blake considered London to be enduring at the time of his writing. Blake's friend Thomas Paine had criticized the granting of royal characters to control trade as a form of class oppression. However, charactered could also mean frightened and may refer to the busy or overburdened streets and river or to the licensed trade carried on within them. At the time, there were few with eyes to see and ears to hear him. The industrial age was booming, manifesting the insights of the scientific revolution. It was a tangibly visible, changing society, fostering an almost irresistible focus on the physical aspect of reality. The narrowing of outlook is captured in one of the Blake's best known images, entitled Newton. It depicts the natural philosopher on the seabed. Learning over a scroll, compass in hand, he draws a circle. It's an imaginative act, only it's imagination wrapped in the marital and alone, devoted in studying what's measurable. For Blake, Isaac Newton represents a mentally trapped within apicals of thought. The corruption of childhood. London also touches on an important theme thought Blake's work on that is especially prominent in his Songs of Innocence and Experience, the corruption of childhood. Blake believed that people are born with everything they need for a joyful, loving, and happy life, but that the adult world corrupts this innocent state. This is the poem. The speaker describes how children are essentially crushed by the adult world, thus building a vivid argument supporting Blake's broader belief. The Speaker of London presents urban children as being in distress from the moment they are born. For example, line 15 describes how newborn babies are blasted by the causes of their impoverished prostitute's mother. With this image, the speaker gestures towards an ongoing cycle of misery. Perhaps the most poignant reference to childhood corruption in his 9, line 9. When the speaker discussed the chimney sweeper was a brutal but every common profession in London in Blake's day, and it was work that children were frequently sold and forced into, like the prostitute and the soldiers mentioned elsewhere in the poem. The impoverished children of London are forced to change their own possession, their babies, for money, food, and on lodging. In other words, they give up their childhood when they should be playing and learning about the world in order to merely survive. And doing so, of course, actually diminishes their chances of survive because chimney sweeping places them in toxic and physically dangerous environment through the images of childhood suffering that the speaker observes and recreates for reators. Blake's profession was engraving and his principal vocation was printing in watercolors, but even from boyhood he wrote poetry. In the early 1780s, he attended the literary and artistic salons of the blue stocking Harriet Matthew, and there he read and sang his poems. According to Blake's friend John Thomas Smith, he was listened to by the company with profound silence and allowed to possess original and extraordinary merit. In 1783, Harriet Matthew's husband, the reigning attorney on Anthony and Blake had some of these poems printed in the modest little volume of 70 pages titled Political Sketches with attribution on the title page, reading simply, contained an extraordinary purpose behind those literal works which behind the society in oneness. Thank you one and all. If you like the notes, if you are getting use from these videos, please subscribe my channel for more videos. Thank you one and all.